Hey, what's going on, comic fans? Mr. Q Comics. Happy 2020 to everyone. This is going to be my first haul video of the new year. It's still books from 2019 because I am super way behind and I suck at getting these videos out in a timely manner. So still have a ton of hauls from 2019 that I've yet to show off. So I'm going to keep going with where I left off. This is still probably 4 or 5 shops, antique malls, flea markets, things like that. I hit up in a 1 or 2 week span back at the end of the summer. So dive in with the dollar books I picked up as usual. First one, Invasion #1. I'm sure I have shown this off before. I'm an avid Todd McFarlane fan. I know some people are not the biggest fan of his art. I love McFarlane. He's what got me into comic books in the first place. So I pick up anything that is McFarlane. This is a decent copy, probably VF Plus range, and it was only $1. It's from 1988. I always seem to find this in the dollar bins, and I can't stop buying it. So I haven't read the series. I think it's like three books, and they're pretty thick. I don't know if that's prestige format or what, but they're thicker books from 88. So I also grabbed Predator Big Game #3. And I picked up #4. I don't know if these... I thought I saw some of these as keys, but I'm not really sure. I had a couple of them. I didn't have the complete set, and I couldn't remember which ones I had. So I grabbed both of these because they were $1. They're from 1991. Just cool Dark Horse stuff. I love, the Predator movies from, the 80s to 90s. So I grabbed it, even though I never really read Dark Horse. So Chris Warner cover, John Arcudi story on these, and Evan Dorkin pencils. So for $1, both pretty decent shape, VF range somewhere. I figured, what the heck? I went ahead and grabbed those. All right, also continuing with the dollar books, Robin #1, which obviously not a big deal. I grabbed these because they have the second print, which this is here, and this is the third print. And I wasn't sure if these were really worth any more than the first print. I don't believe they are. There is a second print, this one with the same logo. I can't remember if it's white or black, but if it's got the UPC code on the bottom, that is worth big bucks. I got burned, or I had a couple of those. I got these packs that were from a collection about a year ago that were pre-sealed with these rigid storage sleeves, and I had 3 Robin #1s in there, and I was just trying to unload some stuff, and I put them on eBay. Put one of them on eBay, and the guy wanted one, contacted me asking if I had another, and I thought it was strange. Why is this guy chasing out multiple Robin #1s? I sold them for like $5 or something like that. And then I found the video that the Key Collector app put out on these obscure second print variants. And yeah, as soon as I saw the video, I quickly scrambled to my eBay page to realize, yep, I missed that one. So you win some, you lose some. Heads up for anyone who has these. Look for that little starburst, the adventure begins, and the UPC code. It's worth big money, and mine were in pretty decent shape. So I lost out pretty big on that. So what are you going to do? It happens. So anyways, those second and third print, I don't think are really worth much. So, all right, Transformers Headmasters #1. Again, a fan of the 80s, as I've mentioned before. It was $1, VF range, first team appearance of the Headmasters. So I went ahead and grabbed that, just trying to kind of complete at least the early part of the G.I. Joe and Transformers run, because I just think it's pretty cool. Grabbed G.I. Joe and the Transformers #1. This is also in pretty decent shape, from November '86. Herb Trimpe cover and art, Michael Higgins on the story. Again, this was VF range, and it was $1. So I think all of these came from the flea market that I walked around. So it's really hit or miss there. You have some people that know books and take care of them, but for the most part at this flea market, these people are just manhandling the books. They have no idea what they have. They think everything is worth big money. But occasionally, you find some gems, and I have found gems at this flea market before. I think I got a stack when I first got back into collecting for $80 of some Golden Age books that I didn't know much about. There were a couple of really beat up ECs in there, and there was a Lobo #1 from Dell Comics that I had seen someone else do a video on. Big tear in it, but I mean, it works out to like $2 a book. So occasionally, you hit it big at the flea market. So all right, I can't remember if this was the flea market or not, but I still have been picking up some of these Atlas books. I'm probably grabbed enough of them, but it's The Grim Ghost #2. And this one's probably mid-grade. Fine, very fine. It's from '75. Ernie Colon, cover and art. So again, that was $1. Another dollar book, just some cool Fantastic Four. I just like the cover with all the heroes on this. Fantastic Four, 236 from 81. Mid-grade, it's John Byrne on the story, cover and art. Marie Severin, I guess Marie Severin penciled Stan Lee's face on the cover, which I can't tell. I assume that's Stan there, but I guess that's the only part she did. I don't know. But I kind of like the covers that have all the characters on them like that. So I grabbed it for $1. And I think this was this the final one for $1? I think it was. Just DC Silver Age. I'm not a huge fan of, the Superboy stuff, but Adventure Comics number 371 from August of 68. Probably mid-grade, very good find. First appearance of the Chemical King and a Neil Adams cover, which is always cool. Jim Shooter's story and Kurt Swan on the pencils. So that's obviously pretty cool for $1. Any Silver Age for $1. If it's, DC stuff like that, Marvel superhero stuff, I am grabbing it, especially if it's in, readable shape. So pretty happy with that. I'd say that was the best dollar book I picked up. Okay, copy of X-Force number 2, second Deadpool. This one's not in great shape. Not worth a ton of money. I think it's in, if it is pristine, a 9.8, it's a good pickup. But this is probably a little lower, probably very fine near mint. But it was only a few bucks, and so I grab them when I find them. Second Deadpool, of course, first appearance of Weapon X, Garrison Kane, and of course Rob Liefeld, cover and art. And I actually kind of like this Rob Liefeld cover. It's probably one of my favorites. So I definitely grab multiple copies of that as I find it, if I find them cheap. Okay, I think this is my second copy of this. I don't typically do DC stuff, as I've mentioned, but this is a cool cover from Andy Kubert. I've never been a huge fan of the Kuberts. I think it's because they followed up Jim Lee on X-Men, and that was such kind of a drop-off for me that I just kind of didn't care for him. But this is actually a really cool cover. Batman 656 from October of 2006. It's the first full appearance of Damian Wayne. Yeah, and Andy Kubert on the cover and art, and it's a Grant Morrison story. So this is in really nice shape, near mint range. I think I've got a second copy of this. This was $12, which is probably a little more than I would typically want to pay for a modern book, but it was in really good shape. So I grabbed it. All right, I have a ton of these. I've managed to find a bunch of these on the cheap in collections. I've probably got 5 or 6 copies. X-Men Annual number 14. This is the first appearance of Gambit, maybe. I've checked it out. He's definitely in a couple of panels, so I don't know. I always think it's weird with some of these where books are listed as a cameo. I don't know if he has any dialogue or anything in this book. Maybe that's it. It's a pretty decent cover. I definitely prefer, the Uncanny X-Men 266 cover, but this is a good cover. Art Adams cover and art, Chris Claremont story. So it's not too pricey. So when I find them cheap, I grab them. You never know when kind of the market's going to flip a little bit and people are going to start putting their money on this. So it was probably very fine range. It was $5, so I grabbed it. So always happy to have more of those for a few bucks. And I have shown this book off a ton. I always come across this book and I grab it. Uncanny X-Men 221. I think I maybe even have one on my last haul video. Of course, first appearance of Mr. Sinister, September 1987. Mark Silvestri on the cover and art, and Chris Claremont story. Again, got to be my favorite Mark Silvestri cover. I love the blue, Havoc just kind of blowing Wolverine away there. It's awesome. Definitely one of my favorite of the kind of copper X-Men keys. So, and this one is in great shape. Definitely near mint range. And what did I get this for? It worked out to like $17. So there's one vendor that goes to the flea market that does a lot of sporting goods that I get along with really well. I actually kind of sell him my overflow of books cheaply because he takes such good care of me. So whenever I bundle stuff with him, he gives me just great deals. So, and he'll hold stuff for me. He'll know books that I'm kind of interested in, and I show up at the flea market, every week, every other week during the summer. So, just a great guy. Love dealing with. Again, he's more of a sports memorabilia guy, but great pickup. I've got a couple of these. I've got a couple 9.8s, but still for $17, you can't not grab it in that good a shape. So, very happy to have another copy of that. So, okay, so this stuff was all, let me get another stack out. This So we also have we have a hobby shop in a couple towns over from me. It's more of a gaming shop, but this guy has some books as well. I've shown off some books. I've picked up some of my major keys off this guy's wall because when you go in with cash and you make a big purchase, he drops his prices considerably. So I didn't have any huge purchases from him. I was just digging through his back issues. So I got some pretty cool finds. Legionnaires number 7. I think this was a buck. It's I didn't see it. It's got a massive tear there. I thought it was just kind of mid-grade, but I grabbed it because it's a Adam Hughes cover, which I really like. So anything Hughes, same with McFarlane. I just love grabbing Adam Hughes cover art, especially the early stuff. It's kind of, I guess, less known. It's easier to find in the dollar bins, so I picked that up. Batgirl number 6. Again, another Adam Hughes cover. This was again a buck, so very fine range. I probably have a few of these now, at least the new 52, 1 through 5. I think I was missing another copy of 6, so I've got a couple of full sets. This one, again, I keep finding this in the dollar bin. This Marvel Age number 6. They're always mid-grade. This is probably, again, fine, but it was a buck, and it's got a nice preview of Beta Ray Bill. Again, not a huge book, but it's one of those kind of, minor keys, a preview of a character prior to their actual first appearance. So look out for these in the dollar bin, guys. There's a couple of these Marvel Age books that you can find quite a bit. I've probably pulled 4 or 5 of these out of the dollar bin still. I think a lot of people overlook these kind of obscure minor keys. And if you're buying and flipping books at all, even if you don't intend on doing that, if you find these, grab them for a buck because they're definitely worth having, even if you just like to trade books. So definitely a cool minor key to pick up. I pick it up every single time I find it. Still haven't found that one with Stanley on me, though. All right, this Thor, God of Thunder, number 12. I haven't read the series, but I love the artwork. It's Asad Rebeck. I think I butcher his name. His art is phenomenal. I've mentioned it before. I got back into comics in 2015. A big part of that was the Secret Wars storyline, which I enjoyed, partly because I had no clue what was going on. That was really me coming back into comic books, but his art blew me away. When I flipped through issue number 1, I was amazed. Just the detail. I think it looks pretty realistic, especially when he does these painted covers. It's amazing. And I know there's definitely a lot of keys in this line related to what's his name, Null, the Symbiont God or whatever. So this was a buck in near mint range. It's first appearance of Roz Solomon, who's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if it's really gotten the heat or not. Again, just an awesome Asad Rebeck cover. Jason Aaron's story and Nick Klein on the pencils. So if I find any of these in that series for a buck, I grab them, mainly because of the art. Okay, these books are obviously hot, have been for a while with the MCU spec. Eternals number 14. This one's low grade, but it was a buck. I don't think I had it. I've got almost the complete run. It's probably VG range. First appearance of the Cosmic Hulk robot. Of course, it's Jack Kirby on the cover, story, and art. This one, not my favorite of the Kirby covers. It kind of looks a little sloppy to me, honestly. And, it's in rough shape, but for a buck, I think I was missing it. So definitely happy with that as a placeholder. All right, another modern book. I grabbed because it was cheap, and I think at the time I was looking, it was showing up on the Key Collector app. Very cool cover. Guardians of the Galaxy 23 from March of 2015. The Key Collector app has it listed as the origin of the symbiotes. First appearance of the planet Clintar. CGC labels show it as Flash Thompson becomes a Venom Space Knight. I don't know which is right. I'm assuming both are. So it was $2 and it is sharp. Really good shape. I don't know what this is going for currently, but I grabbed it at the time because it was cheap, and it's a very cool Rocket Raccoon cover. It's a painted cover by Christian Ward and Michael Bendis on the story. So. Okay, more Hughes. I've mentioned I got a couple of these. Definitely seek these out. The Harris Comics Vampirella line. Vengeance of Vampirella number 6. This is from 1994. I got 2 of these, both $2. I think they're both near mint range. Again, not huge books, but I love early Hughes stuff. So, and I grabbed number 7 as well, which was similar condition and price, I think. Yeah, $2, still near mint range. I don't think I had number 7. I think I had a copy of number 6, but I don't know about you guys. I just keep buying the same book sometimes. If I find them cheap and I like the book and it's in good enough shape, I just keep buying them. So it's a bit of a problem. It adds up. You go, oh, it's easy to justify. It's only a buck. It's only a buck. And then you realize you bought, 30, 40 books because they were just a buck and you have every one of them 2 or 3 times over. It's definitely an addictive hobby. Okay, these ones, all from this hobby shop, not in the best of shape. Silver Surfer, I typically don't chase this series. I do remember reading some of it as a kid with the Infinity Gauntlet story. I grabbed these because they were all just a few bucks and they all had Mark Jewelers inserts, which I don't typically, they're cool. I like having them. I don't seek them out, but I will buy them if they're cheap just because I know they do have a little extra value to some collectors out there. So we got Silver Surfer number 32, Jim Valentino story, Ron Friend's cover and art. And it's funny, I noticed this and I was like, geez, that kind of looks like Kirby art. And it's because it's Joe Sinnott on the inks, who did a lot of the inks, I believe, for Kirby. So it definitely has that kind of Kirby-esque vibe with those kind of thick lines there. So I thought that was a really cool cover. And I think these were all $3, something like that. I got issue 40 as well. Same thing, mid-grade, very good find. Jim Starlin story, Ron Lim cover and art. Grab 41. That one's a newsstand as well. 42, a little more beat up. 43. And this one is not a Mark Jewelers. Everything else had a Mark Jewelers insert, but I grabbed another copy of 82 because I think at the time, again, this was listed on the Key Collectors app. 82 is the first cover appearance of Tyrant. Again, Ron Lim on the cover and art. This is Ron Mars on the story. So happy to get those. I think I'll probably try and use those at some point. Maybe try and clean them and press them a bit because they could definitely use a little TLC. But I have not experimented at all with pressing, though I have bought a press a while ago and just not gotten around to screwing around with it. But I got to do it one of these days. So definitely will save some money learning how to do that. Okay, grabbed another copy of this. Green Lantern number 48. I think I've got a few of these. This one's sharp. It was $4. It's probably very fine near mint. First Kyle Rayner. First Alexander DeWitt. So definitely a cool book to pick up cheap. Okay, couple more Eternals books he had still kicking in his back issues that weren't too pricey. So like I said, I've been grabbing them whenever I can find them cheap. Number 4. This was probably mid-grade for $4. Number 12, also $4. Same thing, probably fine, very fine. This one's the first Unimine. And I think I saw that there was some spec that people think this may possibly show up in the movie. Who knows? So I just been picking up anything Eternals if it's a decent price. And I got another copy of 13. I think I have a bunch of these now. This one was a little more. It's like $8. But again, mid-grade. First cameo of One Above All. First Forgotten One, who later becomes Gilgamesh. Okay, so that is it for the hobby shop. On to the final 3 books, the big books. This was all from the antique mall I've mentioned before. I hit this place up periodically, every month, couple months, something like that. There's one vendor in particular, but every so often someone else mixes in some books. And I think I grabbed some books and I was walking out and happened to look at one of the cases where everything's locked up, and I saw a couple of books, bright yellow covers, and I went over, and normally these cases are just ridiculous. Double what these books should have any business being listed for. But this guy had these all pretty reasonable, so I grabbed all of them. First one, Wild Bill Hickok, number 2. This is from Avon Comics. This is from January 1949. Couldn't find much on it, but it's Howard Larson pencils. It's beat up. Probably good, very good range. There's a piece missing, there's creases, but I thought the colors still popped. It was only $15, so I don't know what this sells for, but I do not stumble across too much gold. If I find Golden Age books, which I'm completely green about, I will grab them if they're a decent price. And I thought for $15, that was a great cover. The yellow is still popped, so I was super happy with that. Grabbed a copy of this. This is really beat up, but I had none of this series. Wiz Comics number 117. I just love the yellow cover. Captain Marvel, obviously from Fawcett Publications. This is from January in 1950. Also $15. This one is definitely probably poor to fair. It's chipped. There's tears. You can see the chipping all along the edge. I'm not even going to attempt to try and read this. It's kind of falling apart. But the cover is mostly there. The artwork is there. So still looks beautiful to me behind the Mylar. So for $15, I was super stoked with that. It's Kurt Schaffenberger on the cover and art on the Captain Marvel story, and Otto Binder on the script on the Captain Marvel story. I think there's a second story in there. I can't remember what it is. And the last book, this was really why I went to the case. I have not a ton of Golden Age DC. Really just the couple you see sitting here on display, but Superman number 64. Super happy to find this. This is from May, June of 1950. Definitely pricier, but it is in pretty solid shape. It's dirty. It definitely needs to be cleaned. It's got a bit of a spine split there, but I mean, it's complete. It's got some tears, no real major creases. I was pretty shocked at what kind of condition it was, and it was less than $100. So I was super happy with that. I thought that was a great price. This place doesn't have great reception, so I usually like to check eBay and make sure I'm kind of getting a good deal. I just don't like paying for. I always want to get the books under what I think I can sell them for. In the event I have to sell them. So this isn't something I plan to get rid of. These are books I want in my collection. I think the Golden Age stuff is awesome. I don't typically buy Superman, but an early Superman like this for that type of price, I don't see it in my shop, so I snatched it up. So this is Wayne Boring on the cover, Alvin Schwartz story, and Wayne Boring art on the Professor Lois Lane story. You've got Edmund Hamilton story and Al Plastino art on the Isle of the Giant Insect story. And I think there's another Superman story that's got Al Plastino art on the Free for All Crime story. So definitely a great book. I was pretty psyched to have a Golden Age book for that price. So, all right, that's the haul, guys. I've got another one ready to go. Hopefully I will shoot it in the next couple days. Similar type of stuff, dollar bin stuff, and some Silver Age goodies at the end. So I hope you enjoy it. As always, please like, subscribe, and I will see you guys soon.